All right, we're back on another episode of Salient Points. This one's number 99. It's the penultimate to 100. Not the last one, right? But we're almost to 100 here. I'm Carlos Macias, the master of what, Dalen? Oof, Dalen is not here. He is definitely
absent.
He's on the fryer tonight. So Dalen, we miss you. We'll see you next time. Can I be master of the frying something? All right, Carlos Macias, master of the frying something. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Deo Blas, the king of Midbay. Thank you for joining me this week, sir.
Howdy, I'm presented by Truly again.
Ooh, hey, this is another episode of Dale being lit. I'm okay with that. I'm pretty sure the listeners are voting for it. I hope you were not cleaning your restroom with the drill gun after having drank some Trulies.
Why does everyone like was going crazy on that? I think that photo of the drill brush got more likes than when I actually bought my new house, like me holding the keys of my house.
I assumed it was to clean like wood or stone or something.
Oh, is that?
No, it's to clean like my tub.
No, he's
the tub
cleaning
in the shower.
No, he's cleaning his tub with it.
So they were on the money.
Yeah, and people, hey, look, people were definitely, I actually kind of didn't know how to respond to that. I was like, this is interesting. I was like, oh, I know. Let me go into these comments real quick. I was like, oh, okay, it's smoky in there. I like it. But you always keeping it smoky. I did throw that picture into our chat, and they had plenty to say in our little chat. I'll send you the pictures of it, I guess, some screenshots of it.
Thank you.
But, I do, hey. Your Niners, they 49ers, they did their best, Dale. That's all I can say. All right.
Their luck ran out. Like, they've been subsisting on, like, they were lucky that Brock Purdy was really good, and they're lucky that all their health came at the right time, but unfortunately just ran out.
Did you see that? Did you see that quote from Kittle? I guess that was going around that he was like, "How do I feel about not having a quarterback?" That's real. Yep. That's real crappy. That's real crappy. Yep. That's just the paraphrasing. Hey, but you always got next year. And enjoy the Super Bowl.
It was a surprising year to me because I was like, oh, dude, like once Trey Lance went down, I was like, oh, geez, here we go, the Jimmy show again. But it ended up pretty good. And it was delightful up until that last part, unfortunately.
Look, it should have been better. It should have been at least a better game. But Purdy goes out. Everything, it's just self-destruct mode. Luis Mendez on the Wheels of Steel. Thank you for joining us. I like how your little video this week, Luis, that you really are definitely on the Wheels of Steel. We promise you, people out there of the internet, he is alive. He is indeed alive.
As far as anybody knows. Yes.
As far as anybody knows. We haven't seen any recent pictures or any documentation or like on your phone of the date or the time, but that's fine.
We could be talking to a chatbot. I don't know.
That open chat GPR or whatever it is, GRP or whatever it's called. GRP. Look, we'll get right into it. And, as I introduced last week, I kind of like Twitter. I hate the Twitter app. I miss Tweetbot every single day, but I do like on the new Twitter, I can actually put polls up. The last poll that I put up on Twitter, and you guys can vote on there and everything else. Actually, and we don't have any comments this week. So remember, on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you put in a message in there, we will most likely respond to it. So feel free to do that. We're getting a couple more subscribers every time I look at it. So thank you, Elise, for subscribing and watching the show. But I did put this poll up on Twitter saying Metroid Prime 4 will ultimately grace what platform? And these are made up, of course, but I feel like pretty close. Nintendo, if you need someone to do your marketing for your next Switch, I'm here. With 45%, it was the Switch 256, which it's whatever Switch comes out in about 2031, I feel. 44% said Super Nintendo Switch, the one that comes out probably next year. I'm thinking next year we get the next Switch. And there's the one single man at 11% that thought it's gonna come out during this current Nintendo hardware cycle. Trust me, look, I'm not Dalen, all right? I don't think Prince of Persia is gonna come out anytime soon, and I don't think Metroid Prime 4 will come out anytime soon. So it's far out, man. It's far out. It makes me sad. Dale, what do you think, man? When are we getting this Metroid Prime 4?
I feel for you because you're like the biggest Metroid Prime fan that I know.
I love it,
and
man.
Like it's looking grim, and I feel it could do a Zelda thing, or Zelda Breath of the Wild thing, where like it releases both on the last gen and like the next gen platform. So maybe it has a chance of making it to like the end of this Nintendo Switch cycle and also be part of the next one. But
I feel like honestly it'll be like at the end of the next cycle, beginning of the 2 cycles from now. They've restarted this thing. We haven't heard anything from it. At the very least, the last update is that Retro Studios is working on, which are the guys who made the original Metroid Prime. I think I'm due for like a replay or something like that. My daughter was actually just asking, was like, "What's so good about it?" I was like, "Wait, what?" We're gonna have to do a little replay. We're gonna have something. Are
you
right?
my child?
I'm right here. Come here. Let me show you something. All right, this is gonna blow your mind. Luis, what are you thinking, man? It's vaporware, right?
Yeah, I was. Well, I mean, at this point on that vaporware topic, we saw a logo 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's been scrapped, man. They threw the whole thing in the trash. So, I mean, we haven't even seen another logo yet. We don't even know what's going on. I do think what Deo's saying, it's going to drop on their 2 we use duct tape together. That's going to be held back by that tech for you, Carlos. I know you're going to love that. And then on whatever the newest one is, probably 2025. I think at the
okay. Are you thinking 2 years? Huh? The next Switch 2 years?
Whatever the next console is, but yeah, 2 years into it.
They're selling like hotcakes, man. I know I guesstimated at 24, but 25 is also realistic, man. But yeah, that's just, I'm just sad. I'm just sad about that. But we'll go right into the headlines. Hopefully I'll get unsad a little bit. Sony might actually be teasing another Uncharted 5 in their latest ad. If you guys, do you guys remember, did you guys see the name of that? It was like Living in the Future or something like that. I don't know. It was like this short little teaser that they put out. But in the teaser, they did kind of say it's just much easier to buy a PS5. I don't know if you guys want to believe them on that. But you know, one of the main things, and it's come up, especially because The Last of Us has kind of been in the news. And by the way, at the end of the episode, post credits, we will be talking about the latest episode of The Last of Us. But Naughty Dog basically said they're not working on another Uncharted, right? That Uncharted 4 was the end of the road. I mean, even Neil Druckmann said in an interview with IGN, he said, quote, "Uncharted was insanely successful. Uncharted 4 was one of our best-selling games, and we're able to put our final brushstroke on that story and say that we're done. We're moving on." I think that's about as definitive as you can get, right? They're like, we're moving on. I know for The Last of Us, I think we have another quote for The Last of Us in a little bit, but as far as Uncharted, they're moving on, and I think that's okay. I don't know about Sony moving on. I think there's still a lot of ways they can go about it, but as the resident, I feel Naughty Dog fan on the podcast, at least, we'll go first to you, man, as far as in Uncharted, is it coming? Yeah. Are you hyped about it not being Naughty Dog necessarily?
I didn't honestly even consider the possibility that it would come out and not be created by Naughty Dog. Like, if that does happen, Sony, they gotta tread lightly, man, because I don't. The only reason I will say, and this is I believe this completely, that franchise was successful was because Naughty Dog made it. I don't know if any other developer could step in and like, yeah, we'll make this exact same game, Uncharted 6 or whatever, and now you're playing as a child. Like, I don't believe that's gonna happen.
And many developers have tried, right? We've seen like the vestiges or the influence of Uncharted in other games, right? In plenty of other games. The last we saw it in the Avengers that I was talking about, and like you see it like throughout a lot of games, and they haven't reached the heights of Uncharted, right? Anything else before we get to Dale's thoughts on this, Lisa? Or
I think they should just leave the IP alone. Honestly, I think everybody that was a fan of the franchise and played it and reached the ending was like, yeah, I'm satisfied with that being the end. Like, that makes perfect sense to me. And they stated that even before they like started development on this thing. They said, this is the last one. We're going to move on. We feel good about this.
I think they could do something cool. I think, and maybe it does need that, right? Maybe Naughty Dog, as they're saying, we're moving on. They're like, we did what we needed to do or wanted to do with that. Maybe it needs a new, fresh take on it. By the way, like, my daughter loves this series, man. And, you know, she was, when the first one came out in 2007, right? She was born in 2009. So it's been around since before she was born. She's a huge fan of Uncharted. And I sent out the tweet, I guess, or, you know, one of the Kotaku tweets are like, they might be working on next one. I was like, child, are you excited about this? And she was like, yes, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. So there's definitely, I feel like there's a demand, right? And I feel like with the success of HBO's The Last of Us and kind of people probably going back and playing Uncharted and all that.
One thing I think they should do, though, is the thing that I would like, I think. I don't think necessarily this is a popular opinion or whatever, but if they just remade like an Uncharted standalone multiplayer, like I would play that because I actually like the multiplayer a lot, but they kind of moved on from game to game fairly quickly. That the servers weren't populated enough, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would be interested in playing a multiplayer of that again.
There you go. And you'll play a new Uncharted, man. Who are we kidding around here? You're gonna play. Oh, if it's okay, if it's not Naughty Dog, okay, reasonable. Dale, what do you think, man? What do you think about this kind of late? Because if you guys have seen the trailer, by the way, it kind of looks like the girl grown up, right, from Uncharted 4, their daughter.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that yet. But this is like their new marketing campaign, right, or something?
Yeah, it's like their new ad that they dropped, kind of a short ad.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll take a gander at it. I was reading the quote and I was just like, God, this is the most Neil Druckmann-ass quote by saying, "We put our final brushstroke on the story."
This is our artistry. It's our artistry,
guy, right? Man. Yeah.
It's a good thing and a bad thing, right? He's an auteur. All right, leave him alone. He's an auteur. All right.
Oh gosh. Anyway, yeah. But besides that, like I agree with Luis, and I did post on Twitter like asking, like I was like, we should be pretty okay with like letting go of Uncharted and the whole series and the franchise. And I think most people agree with that. The ending of Uncharted 4 had a good resolution and a closing. So I think we're okay. But I do, like, if I were to like conspiracy theorize right now, honestly.
Here we go. We need the little waves.
Let the man cook.
We need the little waves. We need the little waves.
If they want to continue it, Naughty Dog wasn't the only person to work on Uncharted. There was also Ben Studio who worked on the Vita.
Also, who worked, before you forget, I'm sorry to cut you off a little bit, Bubsy 3D. Ben Studio also did Bubsy 3D, so let's not forget. 3D. Let's not forget.
Right. But if the demand was there, and we don't know what Ben is working on right now, it could potentially be that, like a new Uncharted game.
Okay.
I don't know if there was a demand for that, but it wouldn't be a far stretch.
They're definitely not working on Days Gone 2, right? So
no, unfortunately.
I feel you might be onto something, because I was looking at the release date for Uncharted 4. It came out in 2016. I think the one that I call affectionately, the one that I affectionately call Girl Uncharted, that one came out a year later, I believe. So it's been a good while, man. It's been a good while. But that we've seen this thing. But
Lost Legacy was good. I thought Lost Legacy was perfect.
I liked it. I liked Lost Legacy as well.
I thought you were talking about Tomb Raider. I forgot about Lost Legacy.
Come on. Okay, true fan.
Uncharted?
True fan. What's going on around here, Luis?
I mean, I don't really hear people call it Girl Uncharted. That didn't really click.
It was good, man. That was pretty nice, and it was short. It was like a short campaign. But I think you're onto something as well, Luis, that you're saying they should tread lightly, because I think that's kind of what happened with The Last of Us Part 1, right? It was supposed to be someone else that worked on that, like just kind of bring it forward. And I think at some point probably Naughty Dog was like, we're gonna give it to us and we're gonna do it right. But even on the topic of that, they are kind of open on making a Part 3, which I would like for them to do, man. I know we've put it on wax before, or I've put it on wax, that I think taking the lessons, if you want to call it lessons, people think Part 2 is a super masterpiece and needs no changes. I feel, the pacing was a little interesting. But I think from 1 and 2 and going into 3, I feel like it'd be kind of incredible. But we have a quote, and I'll go to you, Dale. Hold on. Give me a second here. We'll go to the quote from Neil Druckmann, very Neil Druckmann-ass quote. However, if we can't come up with something, we have a very strong ending with The Last of Us Part 2, and that will be the end. So if they're interested, but they got to come up with a good story. Dale, continue while he sneezes up a star. Go ahead, Dale. What do you think here?
No, like when you were talking about that, the wheels were turning my brain on what they could do. The conspiracy theory, the conspiracy wheel, Dale's conspiracy wheel. And I don't know, like, I don't think people would mind for them to take their time with a Part 3. Because, like, if you looked at how long it took for, say, like Red Dead Redemption 2, that was a long dev cycle for that, right? But then the end result was that the game was amazing and transformative. I wouldn't mind if Naughty Dog took the time to do something like that, where it takes them like maybe potentially 7 years to bring out Part 3 and just like work on it like once in a while and develop it and then release it at the time they know is right. Because I know that I feel like they did that with this HBO show. Like they've been thinking about it for so long, but they're like waiting for the right time to start, getting it all together and producing everything. So I was like, they could totally do that with this series.
Now the only thing is they're working on factions, the multiplayer aspect right now. But I know from Last of Us 1 was 2013, right? And part 2 was 2020. Yes. So about 7 years, and Red Dead 1 to Red Dead 2, I think was about an 8-year gap. So I mean, 2018 or 2028 for Last of Us Part 3, I mean,
look, they can do this. They could do 2020, what is it, 2025 or whatever. They could re-release Last of Us Part 2 on PlayStation 5.
Okay, there you go.
They could release PlayStation VR versions of both of those, and then we'll have Part 3 by the end of the decade. That'd be great.
Luis, what do you think, man? Are we onto something, or we're full of poop out here?
No, I mean, I just don't understand. I don't see some timeline in this world where there isn't a part 3. Like, how could you be happy with that ending? A strong ending where Ellie loses everything, dude. Even
Spoiler alert.
Finger.
Whatever, dude.
It's been enough time. It's been enough time.
Okay, it's been a couple years. I did like the ending, though. I think that's one of the things. I did like the ending. I just think the...
for a pacing, a standalone game, wrapping around the whole thing, it was a good ending for that game. But leaving the complete story like that, Ellie loses everything. She loses a finger. She loses Joel. She loses Tommy, basically. What's his name? Jesse, Dina. She lost everything, dude. She wanders around aimlessly. Roll credits. She even leaves her guitar behind, bro. There's.
I don't even want that. Oh my God. I don't even want that. All right,
the one thing I think that has been that sort of, aside from they keep talking about love being the sort of core focus of these titles, how far people will go for love and this and that, but a sort of subgenre of it has always been a redemption arc from the very first one. We have Joel, we have Abby who had hers, and then Ellie just didn't actually
they just kind of threw her away like the little trash boy emoji. They said, well, whatever. She even leaves her guitar behind. That's the one that got me right there. At least. Anything else before we kind of get into a little bit more over here?
I just want her to have a redemption arc after trying to murder Abby. That's
okay, reasonable. She did. She was like, I don't want to do this. This is not going to make me happy. This is not love right now, is what went through her head.
She doesn't know. She didn't do it. So
she's still holding the cure, man.
That's true. So we'll see. I'm pretty hyped. I'm down for a part 3. Do you think 2028, put it on wax, at least 2028 for part 3, or what are you thinking?
Probably a little bit later than that. I think it's before 2030, but yeah, they have factions. Who knows what else they're working on after? I doubt they want to go back into the world of the last. That's a lot of depression, dude, to be developing.
It was. You know what? And I think that's probably one of the big reasons that it didn't win our game of the year, man. Was like Final Fantasy VII. Let me put my bandana on so I don't fall asleep. I mean, that's the stuff that is exciting, and you're hitting the sword and you're beating up enemies. There was a. It was a great depression. I mean, it's not bad, right? I mean, we should have games that are kind of the full spectrum, right, of emotions. But 25 hours of... It's a lot of people dying. No wonder she left her guitar behind.
And more than that, working on it. So I doubt they want to, spend another 6-7 years in just pure darkness and dread.
Agreed. Well, it's kind of like he said, they got to find the right story. Maybe that's what you're saying now. We're going to be looking at this podcast 5 years from now or 8 years from now. And it's like, Luis was right. It's a redemption story, and it's great, and it's happier-ish. But the next thing we have, last Wednesday, January 25th, Microsoft did have their Microsoft Direct, and I believe they said it was Bethesda, but I didn't see anything Bethesda-y in there, right? Deo, was there some Bethesda-y stuff?
Redfall.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's part of the
it's Arcane, but it's Bethesda.
You know how we feel about Arcane around here. But they did do that Direct. It wasn't too long. I think it was maybe 20 minutes or something like that, 25 minutes. They did do a kind of shadow drop of Hi-Fi Rush, which I gotta get around to, man. It looks amazing. I'm one of the biggest Jet Grind Radio fans. The music, apparently, this man has an iPod on his chest, so of course, because of trademark, blah 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 blah.
Carlos, but, you're gonna love it, man.
I need it, dude. I need it. I'm just over here. Do you know what happened? Is we're gonna talk about it, what you've been playing a little bit more, but I'm playing Forspoken, and I'm ready to throw that in the trash. A little preview for that. But Deo, anything, or do you want to save stuff for the what you've been playing, or anything kind of based on the shadow drop of it, or anything like that? As far as okay.
Well, as far as the Microsoft Direct goes, it was good. It wasn't blow you away great. but like the fact that they just shadow dropped Hi-Fi Rush like out of nowhere, and considering how good it is, like I was like, wow, you guys held that, you know, close to the chest for like a long time. Because if you're playing it, it's the best cel shaded game I've ever played, hands down, full stop. The music and the soundtrack is incredible. Like, and I know you guys are like, you know, audio music guys, so you're gonna appreciate this soundtrack.
I'm about to walk away from this podcast and let you guys run with it. All right.
I am telling you, man. The moment that the Black Keys come on and some other guys come on, I was like, wow. And it's all part of gameplay. So it's very entwined into the whole thing. And I just, it has a lot of character. And for something like this to come out of Microsoft has been a long time coming for them because they have a drought of stuff like this. But I mean, it's Tango Gameworks, the same guys that did like the Evil Within.
I was gonna say Evil Within, something different. It's like, oh, it's different.
Something different. They even say that in the trailer, and they're emphatic about and proud about this one. So and they deservedly should be, because it's a really great game.
So we'll hear a little bit more about that and what you've been playing a little later on. Luis, what do you think, man? The fact that these mans dropped the shadow drop of this game, that looks incredible, man. Did you get a chance to tinker with it?
No, I saw the trailer and it looked amazing. It looked really fun. I can't remember the last time I played a game that was just kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but just that like felt like a classic sort of style video game, you know? It's
kind of an arcade.
Yeah, kind of not necessarily like Banjo-Kazooie or anything like that, but that's sort of just like some random IP comes out and it just looks fun, like, you know. You just gotta love Game Pass, dude.
It reminds me of like Sly. It reminds me of like Sly Cooper, like honestly.
Okay. Hope you got that jump in there for you, Carlos.
My hype went a little down when you talk about Sly. Well, no, actually, no, I like Sly.
No, it's not.
But the thing was, Ghost of Tsushima feels like fucking Sly Cooper, man. It's like, just settle down. What was the man's name in that game? I forgot what his name is, but
Sakai.
Jin Sakai, right? And I was like, dude, you're jumping like that motherfucking squirrel right now. All right, but real quick, the other thing is, so Game Pass, like Luis mentioned, you gotta love Game Pass. But apparently, this game, Hi-Fi Rush, is outperforming Forspoken on Steam, even though it's like half the price. Because I think Steam does it on revenue, right? But it's like Forspoken, damn, dude, they sent that thing out to die. Where Hi-Fi is like, people are looking at it like, let's buy it. I'm gonna buy it. You know, because they could get it on Game Pass, right? On PC, you could get it on Game Pass. The fact that it's outselling that game, it's kind of crazy. They also did announce on the same stream that was for April 18, Minecraft Legends. Dale, did you like what you saw from Minecraft Legends, or how you feeling about that?
I'm not going to play it, but it's important to note that like Minecraft is Microsoft's like money pit. Or like, you know, it's their equivalent of Pokemon. It brings in a ton of money for them. Yeah. And this Legends thing looked like it's going to be a smash hit for a lot of people. Because not everyone likes doing like the whole like building the survival.
And all that. Or the survival.
Yeah, not everyone not everyone likes doing that. Not everyone likes doing like the dungeon crawling in the other Minecraft game. But people like interacting like the way that looks like it's set up looks a lot easier and more. How do you say that? The game flow looks a lot more accessible, right?
Okay,
that's the best word for it. And so I'm like, wow, this is good. Like if you're a kid and you've graduated from like those other games and you want to try something different, this is a good way to do it. And Minecraft is the perfect franchise and vehicle.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass, and it's like their like example, right? Like their prime example is like, just give us Call of Duty, just give us Activision. Look what Minecraft is on everything, right? Just give it. We're gonna give it to everyone. Right. Damn it. The next thing on here, May 2nd. I hope, look, it's going to be an arcane game, I'm sure, but I'll try it. I'll try it with you guys. I'll download it. It's on Game Pass. Redfall is coming May 2nd. It's going to be a co-op vampire first-person shooter. Now, I feel like you might be an Arcane fan, Luis. Are you kind of looking forward to this? Knowing kind of...
Carlos, tell me you didn't finish Deathloop without telling me you didn't finish Deathloop. Because that is not an arcane-ass arcane. It's not Prey. It's not anything like that. And this, come on, tell me you're not going to play this game with me day one On my birthday, dude. Yeah. On my birthday.
Okay, now the guilt trip. Now the guilt trip goes on. Okay, reasonable. Yeah. I'll get down with them. So, yeah, I'll do it. I'm gonna do it.
I mean, this game looks incredible, dude. I don't care what you say.
No, it looks great. Deathloop looks great also. It looks great. But I don't want to go back at breakfast and then at lunch and then at dinner. I'm like, well, I wonder what happens before dinner. Why don't you walk around the castle? I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to go these different times. But yeah, I'll play it, especially with the guilt trip now on wax. So that's fine. That's cool. Another thing they announced was Testo Necrum. That's coming out June 20th. And the one that's interesting before they ended the show was they said Forza Motorsport is coming before end of June. But very quickly, Jeff Grubb, I like how very quickly Jeff Grubb was like, hold on. I'm hearing that thing's delayed. They just lied to you people. And Jeff Grubb, which I think I don't know if he's been proven wrong yet. So he's kind of has a bit of an inside scoop. I know he was at VentureBeat before. I think he's at Giant Bomb or something now. But anyways, he said that thing's delayed to third quarter, maybe later. What do you think, Dave? Actually, well, what do you think of what it looks like? And what do you think of Microsoft apparently potentially lying to us that it's coming out before June? So I got a two-parter for you.
Okay. I'll address the second part. They definitely lied because they said I don't think because traditionally they never have released a Forza game, any Forza game like Motorsport or Horizon in the summertime or end of the summertime. So if they really want to like put in the last bit of polish or anything that they need to get done, like it's more acceptable to have it in like November, like the end of this year.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised, to be completely honest. And I was like completely surprised when they said quarter, was it like first half of 2023?
Yeah, before
last
June.
year?
Before June.
Oh, before June. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know if they're going to hit that. Which is weird because we haven't had a Forza game or a Motorsport game since 2017, I think it was.
The mainline ones. We've had a Horizon, right? The last one was Horizon.
We've had two Horizons. Okay. Yeah. Between that time, so it's been a long time coming, but like it's a whole brand new setup they have going on, and it takes a long time to make these cars. I don't know, I don't know where they are. We only know what they showed us. The one thing I don't like about the format of the presentation that they showed us is that it's very how do you say that they nitpicked certain parts of the video game to show you,
and instead of just like that mouse cursor, huh?
No, see, well, yeah, that was another thing. Oh my god, there's a bunch of other stuff I have issues with this whole thing.
Yeah,
it looks great. Like overall, the picture is very convincing. It looks great. But I think it's really weird that they showed like an outdated Mazda Miata model from like 2010. Like that's the same model we've had in Forza Motorsport.
I knew there was something off. See, I knew there was something off, Deo. I knew. You know how much of a car aficionado I am. I knew something was off. No, that's why we have you on, Deo. That's why we have you.
No, look at that. I'm serious, dude.
Look, I don't know if you caught the sarcasm, but I don't know that much about cars. All I know about cars is that they go fast. All right, that's all I know about the cars. But I like that you can kind of point these little things out. That's a little weird that it shows you it's basically a vertical slice, right? And they're like a super vertical slice. Like Deo's gonna find this shit out.
Like they didn't talk about any of the new physics that are coming around. They didn't talk about any of the online multiplayer, which is gonna give the game much more longer legs in the future to sustain itself until like the next Motorsport comes out. But that's how the Gran Turismo model is built out. So I feel like they should mimic that in some sort of regard, because a single player kind of gets dry in a lot of those sim games unless you're really playing with good AI or actual opponents, like real people. So I don't know. It's kind of questionable to me if they're hesitant to show us any of those right now at this point in time. I doubt that they're going to hit like mid 2023.
Do you at least hit reasonably hyped levels? Or not even reasonable. You're cautiously. Cautiously.
No, I'm still hyped for it. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I'm not but it's on Game Pass, man. It's on Game Pass. Like, fine. Give me a 5 out of 10. Yeah. That's cool. It's quote unquote free, right? So part of this, I think, is kind of Microsoft giving us more dates of like specific dates. I think that was like the complaints in the last few months, right? It's like, give us dates, and they said, here you go. Here are dates, and we shadow dropped this beautiful game, right? That I gotta play it. This week I gotta make make some time to play because it looks amazing. And one of the things that kind of came out of that, some of the quotes, one quote from Phil Spencer specifically, he did mention about 343 and, kind of about the layoffs and that kind of thing. He said that 343 Industries continues to be critically important to Halo. Our commitment to our fans is that we need to have a steady release of great games, and we didn't do enough of that. That's kind of a quote that I pulled over there from VGC. Thank you for that, Video Games Chronicle. Luis, what do you think about that, man? Him coming out and saying, like, hold on, we got games for you. And 343 is good, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy times, because I would not like to... I don't envy his position. I would hate to be in his shoes right now, because it's a very tough position of, like, what he's saying. We want to release these titles. We didn't do very well these past few years, but you also don't want to release them too soon, like we saw with the last Halo, right? So there's this very fine line that he has to walk until they kind of stabilize their path again. And it's weird, but yeah, like the industry isn't immune to this. They're not the only people that went through this. These past few weeks, we saw a bunch of companies laying off people, downsizing, and doing this and that, and it seems like it was just this byproduct of depending on who was sort of better or quick enough to adapt to the working from home, shutdowns, all of that stuff. And people are still kind of trying to level off and figure out what works and what doesn't, and the good path to, like, how do we make this work? How do we get back on the right path? So.
There's a lot of, like, dude, it's gotta be a mess and like behind the scenes, dude. Imagine maybe Dean Takahashi has to come out with another book to, like, this is what was fucking happening at 343 during this era, because there's a lot happening. One of the big things is that Kiki Wolfkill is leaving 343 Industries, which I think she had a big role over there, Dale, right? I think she was like a lead or something, right? She was up there. She was leading projects and stuff, and she's leaving 343 to go over to Xbox, which is funny, right? So I think that kind of says that companies, because we talked about it last week, Joseph Staten kind of went back to Xbox, or Microsoft. So it kind of gives you a sense of, like, they like working at Microsoft, they like working at Xbox, but they're like, that studio, the pressure of Halo, but what do you think about the latest, Kiki Wolfkill leaving 343?
So last pod you asked kind of like the situation, what's going on with 343, and and go watch that, by the way, guys. It's a great podcast. But I did mention that there is this group in within 343 which controls a lot of that, like the culture and like the designs for like Halo going forward, and they manage like the books and the DVDs and the movies and all this kind of shit, right? So Kiki was part of that. So it was Bonnie Ross, Kiki Wolfkill, there's Frank O'Connor, and there's another person. And so, like, two of them are gone already now. Yeah. So, and the big problem child to me is Frank O'Connor now.
Well, I mean, you take this man's music and then you don't want to pay him later or whatever it is.
No, that's Marty. That's Marty O'Donnell.
Marty O'Donnell. My bad. Okay,
no.
Right,
no, Frank O'Connor. Okay. We used to work on. You used to work at Xbox the official Xbox magazine or whatever. And then he went over to Bungie, and then he went to 343. But this group of people, like, they've been holding the reins onto Halo this entire, like, past decade. And so whatever they say goes for the franchise. And like, Kiki's actually really good, but I'm pretty sure because the other two left, she's like, there's no point in me staying here. And I'm pretty sure,
you know what, this is I'm getting out of here. Before this whole thing goes down.
And I'm sure, like, that gig was a pretty good gig for them for how long it lasted. Yeah. And I don't see any reason why she would want to stay, especially if they want a culture change. And what the Halo Master Chief Collection team is coming through, and what not Pete Hines, I forget his first name, but that Hines guy, the president of that side, he's going to bring a total, like, culture shift to that. Yeah, to the rest of 343. I believe
it's something, man. There's something going on over there. I hope maybe it's like a kick in the ass, maybe that it does need a reboot, right? And it's like, all right, Mama and Dad left. All right, they left us. We're on our own. We're gonna have to make it through, and hopefully a beautiful Halo baby comes out at the other end, whenever that is, right? So wish everyone the best over there. I can't imagine the madhouse. This over there, 343 and that Microsoft division, Xbox division.
I'm not envious either.
But we hope for the best, man. I hope something good comes out of it. Because I think Microsoft knows that, they know where what side of their bread is butter. right? I think that's the phrase. I hope that's the phrase. They know that Halo's important. Halo's important, right? We'll go into quick takes now. Hey,
That's when we need Dalen, you know? We need Dalen to do those checks.
I know, yeah. The whitest man on the podcast, Dalen. We need him to check us on the white people phrases. We'll go into quick takes right now. GoldenEye finally dropped. It was sort of kind of shadow drop. We had like maybe a day or two heads up, right? It's like it's dropping. Get your Switch expansion pass ready, which, by the way, I was like, I kind of want to try the online. I know it's crappier than the Xbox Game Pass version of it, but then I clicked around and I was like, all right, yeah, I'll pay $10, $15. No, they make you pay $50 whole for the expansion pass, like for a year. Ooh. They don't even prorate it. Dang. They don't ask for a piece of it. They don't ask for half of it. They ask for the whole thing. That's the throwback to Cat Williams, by the way. Cat Williams. But yeah, it was $50. Like, I can't do it, man. I can't drop $50 for GoldenEye. I do want to play Pokemon Puzzle League. I fucking love Puzzle League, man. So Puzzle League, GoldenEye, they gotta give me maybe one more game in there, and I'll drop the 50, Dale. I'll drop the 50. But one of the other things, so it dropped on Xbox Game Pass as well, which is sort of the best version of it, the high resolution one. But I did play a little bit of it. The text is not high resolution if you look at it. That thing is blurry as hell. But it looks nice. I think I'll kind of tinker with it, maybe see what achievements I get for it. One of the things though, they said that the cheat codes don't work on Xbox. That's according to Eurogamer. But Luis, we'll go to you first, man. You've been hating on GoldenEye, potentially rightfully so. So, but what do you
those
think?
Are strong words. I wouldn't say I was hating on it. Right. I was just saying what kind of everyone was thinking from the get-go is that it was a great game for its time, genre defining, amazing to play with people, split screen. Don't screen watch. It was amazing to do that back in the day. Yeah. But everyone knew in the back of their heart, in this deep, deep part of their hearts, that they're like, that game's going to play like trash now. Like, there's no way that it's going to be like as good as a Call of Duty or a Halo as far as control scheme wise goes, right? Because they didn't have the dual analog sticks. Yeah. So that's all I was saying, just tempering expectations. Like, yeah, it's a fun game. It's wacky. It's silly. It's whatever. Yeah. It's fun. But it's going to be weird to control it, man. Like, it's not going to be, you're going to have to get used to it. And I guess I shouldn't have been surprised with the internet. But it still surprised me about how much hate it got. Like, what did people expect? I don't know.
That's true. I think that's fair of you to say, man. Like, the expectations should not have been as high, right? As maybe you guys have seen on your timelines or whatever. And it plays a little wacky. They tried their best. I did try it, and you do control with the left stick, and you sort of aim around with the right, but it's not right. It's just not right because it came out in '97 when we had the trifecta of the N64 controller, the ugly trifecta of it. Did you try it out though, Luis, or no? You're not even gonna dig into there in Game Pass?
Because I don't. Is it on Game Pass on PC? Because I didn't even check.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure. I know on Xbox I was able to play it.
Because I don't have an Xbox Series S. I do have an Xbox Series S mini fridge, but I don't think that has Game Pass.
You got the fridge?
It could potentially run on the older one, but I'm not sure. I guess we'd have to kind of look into that one.
So I haven't tried it.
Dale, what about you? I mean, did you get a chance to try it, or what do you think? It's finally out. It finally came out.
I did, and I freaking love it. I don't know why everyone's so pissed off about it. It is. I know. We were playing it with rose-tinted glasses or whatever the expression is for that. Yeah. But I had a great time with it, and I was just sitting there after I was trying to settle down from playing I won't spoil that for what you've been playing, but
Dead Space.
Wink, wink. And no, but like, it's definitely dated. Like, it's not your modern day kind of shooter. They haven't changed anything. It is literally basically the same. Like, and the text is exactly the same resolution as it was back in the 90s.
It's terrible, man.
And but however, the nostalgia factor for me is like enormous. I don't know what it's like for a lot of other people, but to me, that was like the first game I 100%ed by myself. That was the first game I've ever played like console, like split screen multiplayer with. And like, I don't know, it was just so revolutionary for the time. I remember quoting myself to my dad saying like, what the first time I brought it home and I was playing with it, I remember telling my dad, I was like, it looks like real life. The graphics aren't going to get better than this.
Everything looked like real life, man. Everything else looked like real life, yeah.
So I have a deep a tie with GoldenEye, and I get why people are hating on it. It's not even the best emulated port or version of it. It's terrible. There's vertex splitting. You'll see facets split apart sometimes when you're running around and whatever. But I don't care. This thing should never even have come to fruition here in 2023 on a modern console due to legality. Well, and yet it's still there.
And it had to come out in the wackiest way, right? Only the Nintendo one has online, the Xbox doesn't, but the Xbox is higher resolution where the Switch one isn't. Mm-hmm. So and all because Rare is now under Microsoft's umbrella too.
Right.
Not only that, but it's a 007 license. So you got the 007 license. You got it was on N64. You got it was made by Rare, and now which is now owned by Microsoft, which then they created this Rare Replay situation where
you have the likeness of Pierce Brosnan and all the celebrities in there.
It's a small miracle. It's a small, tiny miracle that it actually is out there. But you did mention something. I never 100%. I did beat the game. I beat the campaign. But I think that is one of the things that I might do is kind of go through the achievements list and all right, let me see what I can get, right? With this wacky version of it. But I'm definitely, I hope you didn't kind of say what you were going to be, what you've been playing. But we'll see. We'll see when we go to the what you've been playing section there. The next thing we have is... we have a couple more news from this one's kind of late breaking that came into the podcast kind of late, but PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo will not be at E3 2023. I know one of the things that Jason Schreier, your favorite person, Jason Schreier from the internet, Dale, he was mentioning. Hopefully you guys are watching that video clip right there.
King of the castle.
He was mentioning that the last E3 we had was 2019, and even then it was only Nintendo, right? So PlayStation and Xbox has had their kind of across the street sort of Xbox presentation thing, and PlayStation has said nope to E3 for a good while now. So it's it's still interesting that none of these big manufacturers will be there, but I'm sure there'll be plenty to see, right? What do you think, Luis? What do you think about this? This is kind of a no news type of situation, or
at this point it's just par for the course. We kind of expected this to be the case. I am honestly surprised there's even an E3 at all, honestly, some sort of officially sponsored E3, because sure, back in the day they had Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, Ubisoft and whatever sitting on the corner outside a little bit somewhere, but it's always been about the people and going to meet people and going to events and networking and chatting it up and just getting drunk with people at a bar or whatever. That's kind of what E3's been about. So these three giants don't need this event to be relevant. Really, they don't need to be tied to it in any way whatsoever, as they kind of did this last year, right?
Yeah, well, it hasn't been around, right, since 2019 E3.
But
right?
There was a quote unquote fake E3 where they all kind of dropped something around that.
The virtual one. Or
yes.
something?
The companies have kind of they stuck around. They like the timeline, I suppose, right, of it. But they're E3. Look, people know E3 exists. Jeff Keighley does a show. Here we are. Click our link, please. So it is very much, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. So it's sort of a big deal, but it hasn't necessarily been that big of a deal, right? Since they've kind of been out of it. They've had their foot out the door for a good while now. The other thing is, real quick, before we get into what you've been playing, a couple little things here. Dead Space apparently sells half of Callisto Protocol in the UK. I put caveat. They did put it that there's a caveat in there. I'm assuming because I think it might have been a Friday release or something like that. But it's just kind of an interesting little anecdote, I suppose. And I know the UK does weekly sales as well, right? So it's kind of one of those things where ultimately probably Dead Space had a big word of mouth, right? It was blowing up the internet. Callisto Protocol was doing pretty big as well. But what do you think might have happened here, Luis, that Dead Space sells only half of Callisto Protocol? Is it probably because it's a Friday release, right? I'm assuming.
Ball don't lie, man. It's Callistes is clearly the way better game of these two. There's no question. Ball don't lie, dude. Look at the number. It speaks for itself.
Don't lie.
Which one is getting more
Don't
updates,
lie.
dude? Which one is getting more updates?
That's always a sign of a great game. How many multiple updates come out so close to launch? By the way, that game's kind of broken, man. It's out of control. But for now, we'll give it to them. Dead Space kind of sells half of Callisto Protocol. But from what I kind of was reading around a little bit, and apparently Dead Space looks good. Maybe we'll hear about it from Dale, but it doesn't look as good as Callisto Protocol as well. The other question, though. Dead Space, there's a Dead Space content warning via accessibility options. Do you know something about this, Dale? Did you tinker around with the accessibility options?
I passed through all that shit. I didn't look at it.
Yeah, whatever, man.
I want press start. That's give me the button.
You want the window? You want the Last of Us window and click start and let's go through that window.
Let's go.
What do you think?
Wrap it up.
What do you think about that, Luis? That they kind of have a little content warning on through accessibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone in general sort of is on board with this widely sort of accessible, let anyone have access to games as much as possible, which I guess it's cool to like, hey, something crazy's about to happen right now, be prepared. But like, I don't, like, you're playing Dead Space, dude. Like you see the ESRB warning, the name Dead Space. Like, I don't know what people expect, but I guess if it helps someone out there, it's like, okay, let me mentally prepare for something that's about to happen real quick.
Let me bring it in. Let me bring it in for a second, right? The other thing is real quick. I don't know if you're gonna talk about it and what you've been playing, but NBA All World did launch, which is from Niantic, right? The people who did Pokemon Go. I tried it out for like a day. I didn't even put it in my what you've been playing list because I was like, I downloaded it because everyone in our chat, we even created a new chat for NBA All World. But I played it for like a day or two, and then I was like, whatever, man. I like the little bar, the shooting and all that. It's cool, but Niantic. Mm-hmm. But I know you and the chat group leads are gonna fully keep going down this path, right? Or how you been feeling about it so far?
I mean, yeah, I'm playing it lightly here. I mean, as we can see from the void, I'm kind of limited on my meandering about the world doing things right now, so I haven't been able to fully experience this game. But I just love the fact that, you kind of throw in things in the chat just to see, let's see if this gets so spicy, something happening in the chat. And I just love that everyone went fucking hard in the paint for that for like a day or two. Everyone's like, yeah, NBA All World, damn, hey, come over to here. Look, there's a court right here. Oh, damn, John Moran is right here. Come pick him up. Like, I just love the fact that Proothby, shout out to Proothby, episode 0.
Shout out to Proothby, there you go. There you go.
That he just he went full nerd, like all in on this game. He added it to his 2-game rotation. He only plays Rocket League and he only plays Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. That's all he plays. And now NBA All World is up in the rotation.
There you go. He doesn't play the new game, by the way. Proofy, we're gonna link him to this, and we got timestamps on it right now, Lise. We're gonna link him to him. It's like he doesn't play the new Modern Warfare 2, Dale. You know why? Because there's no movement. This is a direct quote from this man.
Oh, he's about one of those. Okay.
Said, there's no movement. I was like, I feel like when I press the analog stick, there's movement, and I can dolphin jump as well. So where's the no movement? But anyways, he's very much no movement. So he's still playing the older one. Shout out to Proothby out there. I think I'm done, Luis. I think I'm done with it, man. I had my fun.
That's fair.
Yeah, I did a couple of jump
but when we
shots.
go to crypto, you better get in on that real NBA court.
All right, there we go. We're gonna figure that out. We'll move on to what you've been playing here. Dale, we'll kind of go to you first on this here episode. Do we go to you first usually? I don't know. I kind of mix it up. I switch it up. We're going to Dale first. What have you been playing?
I think you do list me first because most of the time I only play like one game.
Okay.
And, like I barely play.
Look, my logic, if you guys ask me, it changes from week to week. So depending on the day,
I hope it does.
Depending on the day, you get a different answer. It's like, oh, I did it because of that way. But what have you been? Whatever you want to start off with, Dale. What have you been playing in the last week?
So I've had a lot of time for some reason. I think the Bay Area storms have kind of quieted down a little bit, so I had some time. Yeah, and the wifey, she went down to LA for a business trip. So I was like, okay, I got some time. I got some time
the house to myself. Let me play some games.
Yeah. So I was productive game wise, and I had 3 games on the docket. The first one, I was finishing up Somerville, which I've mentioned before, and it's okay. And I did misquote saying last time that it was made by the Play Dead guys that did Limbo and
Inside.
Inside. It's not them exactly. It's like a group of developers from that previous studio. They formed their own studio and they made this game.
Okay.
And so it's kind of similar, but it's not similar as far as like how the game works. It's very underwhelming to me. the entire experience.
Yeah.
It's a very like I think I texted you that Carlos said it's an easy platinum if you really want to do it, and it's a quick one too because it only takes like 2 hours, 2.5 hours tops.
But I would have to pay for it though, right? It's not free on PlayStation. Are you playing it on Xbox or on PlayStation?
Xbox. It's on Game Pass.
Okay, so you're talking about getting all the achievements, right? Not necessarily a platinum. I know it's just technicalities, but I know what you mean.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's on PlayStation Plus or whatever, like any of those extra services, then maybe, but I haven't checked.
Yeah. Well, this is a direct quote. I'm looking at my phone real quick, Dale. This is a thing because you told me play this game, Carlos, you'll like it. Well, you said, Carlos, Somerville is an easy plat in a quick 2.5 hours, but I didn't like the game overall. And I responded with the quote, okay, Dale, quote, hey, play this game. It's short. Also, trash boy. So that's kind of what I got from your statement. All right. It's like, hey, play it. It's short. Trash. My kind of game, man. You kind of know me.
Yeah.
So Somerville,
I think,
Game Pass, couple hours long, right? Give it a shot.
Couple hours long. Yeah, give it a shot. I mean, some people like I just to make sure. Like I was like, am I just crazy here? Am I the only one? I went back and read some of the reviews for it, and so it was 50-50. Like some people really liked it, some people didn't like it, and so like I was like, I'm kind of in the middle. So if I were to rate it on our scale, like of 1 to 10. I'd give it like a solid 5.5, but that's like completely average. Okay. Like really,
yeah, it's kind of middle of the road. They're middle of the road. What else you've been playing?
So then after that, I moved on to GoldenEye because I was waiting for my copy of this other game, and like I said earlier, like I'm having a blast with GoldenEye. I'm unlocking all the cheats and all this. I'm like speed running through certain parts. I'm going through on the hardest difficulty, which is hilarious now because like I struggled with 007 mode when I was like a wee young lad, but like now I'm like I'm blowing through these levels, like just shooting. I'm gunning left and right with a club and everything. Yeah. So I was having a blast.
Do you feel it's the controls, the quote unquote updated controls, that makes it a little easier to play?
The modern controls help out a lot, mainly because I was like aiming with what you had to do in the old N64 one, and I haven't played the Switch version, so I don't know if that's how it is right now.
Which I hear a lot of complaints as far as the controls, right, on the Switch version.
Yeah, like you can't move and you can't strafe and aim like exactly. You can't pinpoint that, and like there's a huge heavy aim assist in the game already. But when you have like the dual analog control scheme, like you're already pointing your like through mouse movement or your right stick movement. You're already looking over there, and so it's very generous that the aim assist turns on. So you get like headshots like no problem. It's really easy.
Yeah.
So I mean I'm having a great time. Like I remember all like the secrets in the game, so I'm having a great time. Like I don't know if you guys remember like playing the facility in multiplayer. You could jump back into the vents up in there. There's like a special way to do that. Yeah. And I've been doing that, and like people are like, "What's going on? Like, how do you remember how to do that?" Like, I was playing with my cousins that came over.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know. It's such a nostalgia hit for me. I have a very, huge place in my heart for GoldenEye.
Which, look, it was in heavy rotation, man. During the N64 days, it had the, it was revolutionary at the time that it had 4 ports, right? That it had plugins. It's like, bring your controller, man. I have the ports for it, man. Bring your controller. If it wasn't Mario Kart, for me, Diddy Kong Racing, but Mario Kart was big. Smash Brothers, of course. But GoldenEye was the big one, man. It was in heavy rotation. Even though when you put rockets, everyone had rockets, it was like 5 frames per second, but we still tried and stopped looking at my screen.
That's the thing that's crazy about me. Like if you look at the YouTube algorithm with like all the recommending videos, like there's a lot of people shitting on the game, and I'm like, do you guys remember how it used to play? And it only played on the N64 with a shitty controller. Now you have all these places you can play GoldenEye. You can play on your PC. You could play a better version that's emulated that was supposed to come out for the Xbox 360, and you could still play that thing. Like, why are you complaining about having this kind of version right now?
You were playing a split screen multiplayer. It is smoother playing it in multiplayer. Okay, it's not 5 frames.
So much better.
Okay, slappers only, right?
No,
you did a little slappers only.
Slappers only, no odd job. Slappers only, no odd job.
Slappers only, no odd job.
Big head mode on, you know.
Yeah, I'll dig into it, man. I'm gonna tell my child to sit down with me too. Like, let's play some GoldenEye. Look at this nonsense.
It's hilarious.
What else you been playing, Dale?
And the final one, and I steamrolled through this game because it's so freaking good. It is my early game of the year contention game right now. And it's Dead Space the remake. And good lord, that is such a great game. The presentation is just phenomenal in this game. Like the instant you step on the Ishimura and you start battling all these crazy monsters and space demons or whatever you call them, like it's intense.
Yeah.
And the game reminds you that it's kind of unforgiving. I'm playing on like the normal difficulty level, and I think there's either 1 or 2 tiers above that.
Yeah.
But I just played at the medium one because it's been a long time since I played the original one.
Do you feel?
And I remember
I did read a little bit. Sorry to cut you off real quick, Dale. I understand like that. You know, with the original, there's kind of all magic trickery, and I think Luis has said it before. What do you say about video game development, Luis? That it's all a magic trick, or it's all
an illusion? We're illusionists.
You're just illusionists. So from what what I was reading as far as like the technical aspects of this new Dead Space is in the original, they're like, here's a section of the medical bay and there's a different medical bay, but it's not cohesive. It's not like they built out the ship in the original one, but with this one apparently it's like, oh, they built out the ship, like it's together. It's not separate levels. Or do you get that sense while you're playing the game?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. It's a lot better in this game. Like you could run down corridors and they kind of all link. Like there's 6 sections of the ship of the Ishimura. And so all of them are kind of linked by these crazy corridors and maze like, hallways and everything like that. But the one thing that they have running through all of them is the tram system. Mm-hmm. So they have one continuous tram that runs through the entire center of the ship. And so you could like depot at one station, get off into another station, and you're right there in that section of the ship. And so that adds to the cohesiveness and convincing you that like, oh yeah, this is one entire ship.
I'm on a ship by myself, you're on a ship, scared.
Like the entire time. You're super isolated. This is the only thing that you have in front of you right now. Yeah. So they did a very good job doing that. And like I don't remember the tram system even being in the first game.
Yeah, well, it was kind of like when you got in there, it was like levels, like or a loading screen. It was kind of like
it was more like loading.
Loading screen, and then you're in the next area, kind of.
Yeah, and in the PC version, they warn you for like the loading stuff is like you should have an SSD because it kind of breaks the immersion of that.
Interesting.
If you play on like the Steam Deck, the load times are like about like 6 seconds for the elevator doors to open or something like that. And you're like, oh, that reminds you that you're loading into like a different area or whatever.
Did you played it on the Steam Deck as well, or some parts of it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, gotcha.
No. I when I was done when I finished the game, I went back and looked at all the reviews and just to make sure, like I was like, damn, that was like a fantastic game. I hope I'm not out of sorts
minority
with this,
here. What? So you played on the PC? You played on your PC?
No, I played it on the Xbox Series X.
Okay, and it ran. Apparently, that's the one, right? I mean, besides PC, but between Xbox and PlayStation, overall, yeah,
it's minute. The difference between the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X for this is like very small. Yeah. I downloaded the day one patch for it, but I did run into a couple issues, which would dock the points of the game for me. Mm-hmm. But for everyone else, like I feel like this is an isolated incident. Where like I was losing items, like especially health items in my inventory. So every time I saved. So I'd like do an encounter, come back, try to heal myself, and then I was like, where's my health pack? Like I just had it. I know I have it.
Okay, reasonable.
And there's no health stations.
You need it.
Built
you
into
need
Ishimura.
It, man.
You need those health packs.
That,
you have to buy it at the store. Yeah. So I'm like, what's going on? So I took a screenshot of right before I saved the game, and my health pack was there. When I saved,
I know I'm not crazy. You're like, I know I'm not crazy. I know
exactly.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, but so it didn't ruin the whole experience of the game, right? You still kind of made
no. There's another part like where I'm literally at the end of the game and like it froze on me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to finish it. I had like 20 minutes left, and I was like, come on. So I mean, those aren't super game breaking because it didn't happen again after I don't know what fixed itself, but it did.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal because the game is so freaking good, man. It's just remember that first time you played Resident Evil 4 for the first time and you're just blown away. You're just like, that's the entire series of the game is like that. The audio is amazing. Like that's one notable thing that It's the best audio that I've ever heard in a video game.
I was seeing some of that online as well, that the 3D audio is amazing. And I don't play these spooky games with audio anymore, man. Well, not without audio. I'm saying like I'm listening to the speakers on the TV, right? I kind of turn it up a little bit, but it's like, and I think I've said it on Wax before, but honestly, it's like, I want to play it that way. That's probably the best way to experience scary games. But I also want to not like extend my playtime by like 7 times, because it's like I'm like creeping around the corners. I'm like, I want to beat this game, and I can't do it with the headphones. Right.
Okay. So they have like a good, how do you say, like a balancing of that. So like even though you're creeping around, there is an AI director in the game.
That's another thing that's interesting. Yeah.
So So if you're doing pretty well, like they'll try to ramp up the difficulty or send a different kind of monster encounter in front of you in order to like just for you to solve or whatever, try to get out of. If you're not doing that well, then they'll know, and they'll just kind of like, all right,
let's not mess with this person too much. But so for you, it feels fresh. It feels like fresh.
It's a brand new game. It's like playing Resident Evil 2, the remake.
Oh, and that thing was incredible, man. That thing's right. Hey, so look, if you're this hyped, if you still remember a game you played in January 23 when we do the Game of the Years later this year, we'll revisit the criteria. I mean, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the criteria, dude. I have so much FOMO about like Dead Space. I'm just at this point, I'm like, all right, whatever. I missed the FOMO aspect, even though you're getting me hyped yet all over again. But I need to get my hands on this soon enough. I have FOMO, but mainly because I'm playing Forspoken, man. I'm playing this magic parkour game that makes you seem.
Tell me you love it, because I want to love that game.
Man, it's not great, dude. I will say one of the most hated things on the internet was like the dialogue. Oh, it's like a Marvel movie taking over or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's wacky. It's what we've been hearing from all the Marvel movies. That's correct. In the last like decade or so, or two, a couple decades, or however long it's been. It doesn't bother me too much, mainly because I can skip it. And I can skip it line by line. So that means I read it, skip, and like that does fail me sometimes though, because it'll be one word and I'll skip the next thing. I was like not fast enough, and I'll skip the next big old line. So I got to be careful with that. But other than that, like the game is just too bland, man. There's like nothing in the world. The graphics are not amazing. I remember they were kind of selling this game on how incredible it was gonna be, right? Or at least incredible looking. It doesn't look great. The world is just kind of empty. The story doesn't interest me. It's just really rough. It's just really, really rough. Even the performance on it, and I'm not much of a performance like on a game type of thing, right? I'm like, okay, I'll play it at 30, I'll play it at 60, whatever. But I like the audacity that they have, that if you go into the menu, they say 120 hertz mode. It's like, I think it's running worse than before without the 120 hertz edition. It's just not great, man. The gameplay's okay, because you use a lot of like the left trigger and right trigger and a combination of those. But other than that, not really. You don't use the face buttons too much. There's not a lot that you do with the face buttons. So it's not. I'm a glutton for punishment. I know, but I probably said it on the podcast before. You guys, I'm gonna beat this game. I'm gonna beat it, man. I just need to get it out of my life. I think I'm in chapter 5. There's like 12 chapters.
Did you gamefly this one?
I did gamefly, and that's why I don't have Dead Space, man, because of Forspoken. I had it in my lineup, and I had Need for Speed since December. So I'm like, let me get this game out of the way. I'm in chapter 5, chapter 12. I think there's 12 chapters of it. Do not buy this game. Do not buy this game. If you can gamefly it or somehow try it for super cheap.
I want to because it comes with a steelbook. Okay. And you guys know me in steelbooks. I'm like, man.
This is one of those times I suggest you break your rule of wanting all the steelbooks, man, because it's super rough. Don't do it.
Have to break your
Her graphics look so good, though. I mean, her graphics, though.
Don't do it, man.
They didn't put the graphics in.
They did not put the graphics in. The animations are really weird. There's a lot of bucktooth characters hanging around in the world. and I'm not trying to pick on people that have, that kind of teeth, situation. But it's rough when you see it in the game. Like, it's just rough because I don't think they meant it that way. Forspoken, Damn it, I could be playing Dead Space, all right? I could be playing Dead Space. Chapter 5, I'm a glutton for punishment, so I'm gonna make it through. The other thing is, though, I did finally beat Splatoon 2. It's a nice little game. It's a nice little collection of levels. I know a lot of those games. I beat 1 and 2 already. Didn't really go into online very much. And Splatoon 2, I beat it. I like the levels. I like the bosses in it. They're always kind of really creative. They remind me of like Super Mario Galaxy, sort of how like, oh, this is a weird bobbing around boss type of thing. It's very simple, right? You're going to kill him, jump on him like 3 times or whatever it is. But I liked it. I liked it enough that I actually bought the Octo expansion, which is a $20 expansion that I'm going to play through that. And then finally get through Splatoon 3. But those are fun games, man. I do like it that it's, kind of family-friendly shooting game, right? That Nintendo has. And apparently it's a big deal. It's a big deal, right? We don't hear about it too much, huge. I guess, in the hardcore community. But it's apparently a big deal. Luis, what have you been playing, man? Before we kind of get into a little Last of Us recap in a bit. After the credits.
Same as the past couple ones. I'm playing Destiny, but something, I don't know quite what happened, but something happened between last week's episode and today where I got bit by the bug, man. Like it all clicked with Destiny.
I think I've been seeing you online a lot too. Like this motherfucker, he's not even inviting. Dang. He's not even inviting for us to play, Dale. He's just over there in his.
Don't leave him alone. He's grinding, man.
I love it. I understand though. My bad, Luis. My bad. Continue.
Yeah,
please.
But everything finally, like, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like I understand why there's all these different activities now. I totally get it. Yeah. So I was going ham on Gambit, dude. I reset my rank on Gambit already. Okay. Even Dalen last night was like, oh damn, you already reset your rank? I'm still like rank 3 or something. So but playing, we did some Gambits yesterday. I finished the Witch Queen story. Even Dalen was like, he was gonna jump on to help me. Like he logged on at like 12,
and you're like, I'm already midnight. Done. I'm already done.
Hey, what do you need to do, Luis? I was like, oh, I already did the story. Like I don't need your help with anything.
I did my weeklies. I did my dailies. Get out of here, Dalen. Leave me alone.
Yeah, we're out there like now I'm kind of getting like, oh, okay, so now I got to do this strike, and now I got to do this dungeon, and now I got to do this activity. Yeah. So like, I should pick up some bounties. Like everything's sort of clicking now. Yeah. But yeah, now the one thing, and Dalen was walking me through, we did one of the strikes where for the Witch Queen, where he was kind of walking me through. I guess you guys tried to do a raid or something, but he's like, oh look, we were naming these little things. If you click them in the right order, it unlocks some door. Were you there? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know if I was playing with you, but I think we've tried.
No, yeah, I wasn't in there, but he was like walking, like it was a museum. He's walking me from one to the other, like, oh, and we called this one flower, and this one was upside down cross.
There was a cloud, there was a snake, there was all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
But then at the very end, my favorite part, we finished the strike, and he goes, oh, watch this. This was Carlos's favorite part. And then like the strike is over, and he's like, look at how much time is left on the top left corner. It's like 500 seconds left before you return to orbit or some shit.
Yeah.
So but yeah, no, I'm fully in the Destiny. Destiny bit me, dude. I got bit by the bug.
Hey,
like I'm all in.
It's nice, man. It is a nice game. Every time I jump in, I don't know if you know what I say every time I jump in, Luis, but I'm like, this is a good fucking game, man. It feels great. I'm like, every single time I jump in there, especially after playing Forspoken, I go in there, I'm like, this game feels great. Like when you shoot, it feels good. It's Bungie. There's a reason why Sony bought them. But so we're all in, man. We just need to get those dungeons out of the way, some raids out of the way. I think we'll that's end game stuff. That's what I live for, right?
Hey, I was counting, dude. I was doing my job in that raid. I was counting.
All right, so that's
we gotta get that done.
That's it for this episode of Salient Points number 99. I'm Carlos Macias. Thank you, Deo Blas, for joining us this week as well. Luis Mendez on the Wheels of Steel. It's episode 99. Next week, we're still thinking about what we do, something special. We might be going live next week. I guess we'll just kind of have to coordinate it. I know, Deo, you're going on an adventure. I don't want to dox you too much, so maybe we have to kind of coordinate the time or whatever, right? As far as that's concerned potentially. But yeah, if you're sticking around, I'm just kind of killing time right now because we're going to get to The Last of Us, episode 3, in this little mini Scene It. I'm Carlos, Deo, Luis. How you guys feeling about The Last of Us episode 3, man? It was interesting. I liked it. It was a bottle episode, clearly. I think this is supposed to be a 9-episode like show. So it's interesting that they would dedicate so much time when you think about it in the scope of like 8 or 9 episodes that they're like the story of Frank and Bill. Is one of those things where like we're going to dedicate a whole episode. Not only that, but we're going to switch it up. We're going to switch it up. In the game, you get like this whole, you actually hang out with Bill. In this one, oh, no. We're going to kind of show you a little something different.
Bill hangs out with you.
Bill hangs out with you. And I like how one of the biggest components of it is the letter, right? Because that's a big deal in the game, right? In the game, you get the letter where he's kind of like, I can't deal with you anymore, Bill. I can't deal with you like how you are set in your ways. So I'm killed. Or, he committed suicide, right? So that was always going to be kind of one of those interesting things where, how do they do it in the TV show, right? How do they switch it up, or how do they kind of play with that? And I think I was pretty, satisfied with how they played with that. Luis, if you want, we'll go with you first, man. But what do you think about the episode overall?
Because I just did what you've been playing.
Oh, that's true. Go ahead, Dale. We'll kind of get you on the spotlight here. He was like ready
Unless
to like.
You want me to go
he
first.
was ready to disengage. Like, okay, it's Lisa's turn.
I wanted to listen, but no, I thought it was fantastic. That was one of the best pieces of like episodes I've seen in a long time. I mean, I have an affinity for Nick Offerman and his acting skills and whatever. So like, I was super excited when they cast him as Bill, because Bill is like top 3 favorite character for me in the Last of Us franchise altogether, just because like he, this person, there's a guy out there in your community stocking guns, stocking canned food, gasoline, or whatever, just prepared. Yes, ready for that. What's going on?
They're not preppers. I don't know what your brother-in-law calls it, but they're not preppers. They're survivalists.
They're survivalists. That's a very main distinction, right? Mm. And so I loved him in the video game. And when they put that twist at the end, before you leave him, and before Ellie and Joel go over to Pittsburgh, like I was like, dang, that's like a whole other dimension to this character that you never was thinking about, And so when they expanded on his character for the TV show, I was just like, wow, they're going all in on this type of thing. And it was very interesting how they wanted to do it, because like you guys watched the inside the episode
at the end of the show,
at the end of the show, right? And Neil Druckmann is just always about, he's like, I don't want to change anything unless like they could subvert your normal expectations of something in the show or character in the games, and do it really well, which I feel like they've accomplished pretty damn well with this episode. It was emotional to me. I cried. I definitely did. And when my wife doesn't like watching this kind of show, it's a little bit she calls it too intense for her. And I was like, what? You watch all these?
Same, Dale. They will watch. Well, I'll speak for my wife, but she'll watch serial killer shows.
They will watch it, but they'll watch those murder mystery things, right? What the heck's the difference? This is like fake things. You're comparing it to real life murders. But anyway, that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole other thing, Dale.
That's a whole other issue right now. Society wise, but she was asking me about it, and I was like, what? You didn't even like want to watch it with me. And I was like, why are you asking about it today? And she's like, oh, I heard about it all over the internet and everything. And I was like, how the hell did, like, she doesn't subscribe to this. She's not a Twitter person.
That's crazy.
Same with my wife. The same. As far as she doesn't subscribe to all that.
So it's not the same social kind of media circles that we run in, right? So when she asked me about it, she's like, can you explain what's going on? So I explained it to her, and I'm like bawling my eyes out describing the whole Bill part from this last episode, because it's a very relatable thing, like the having cancer and having someone to survive with.
And I know a lot of it is kind of like, oh, it's this, on the surface, it's like, oh, it's this like gay couple. As they grow older, they also grow, they also deserve living a long life kind of thing. But it's really like across the board, like middle-aged couples, right? Not just like gay specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be gay. Like, he just happens to be gay. It doesn't mean like he can't find love in a hopeless place. But like, that's the way they did it was really well done. And in the context of things, I think the payoff will be huge, because the message that Bill left for Joel is really important for Joel and Ellie's relationship going forward, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that they were able to share that kind of emotion with us on screen, and then know that like, oh yeah, this is going to eventually transfer to Joel, like that kind of emotion thing. We should be prepared for something like that. And people might not like this episode; they wanted more action or expected something else, like. Especially the dialogue
it was incredible, man,
Ellie
and it gives
Bill,
you.
But it was really well done.
Yeah, and it gives you that whole like you kind of touched on it as well, but it gives you kind of like a background to the world, what it is to be in this apocalyptic land, and it kind of gives a little more like a perspective on Joel, because they have that scene where they actually like, we're not gonna make any friends, like, and the next scene they're making friends. Joel is there and Tess is there, and it gives you kind of an idea. It gives you a little more background on who Joel is, right? He's a protector, as the same as like Bill is. And it's like, well, even that scene, right? That scene where he's kind of shooting. That was a great scene. That was a great action scene, by the way, awesome. Right?
That was a good
scene. It kind of moved the story forward as well, where it's like, call Joel. Like you call Joel, all right? He's gonna like know what to do next, right? So it kind of gives you kind of a little more background on who Joel is, and it does continue the story in a way. But ultimately it is a bottle episode, and it's a beautiful one at that. But as bottle episodes do, it's like we're giving you a story. We're giving you a sort of self-contained story that'll give you a little more texture to the overall arcing thing. Luis, we'll go to you, man. What do you think? If you want to continue down what we're talking about, or if you want to mention something.
Yeah. So they're doing like a master class on how to do a screen adaptation for a game right now, because this is the epitome, as far as I know, for anything that I've seen, that is like adapting this and adding to the story without really changing the main story thread, right?
Yeah.
Like this is something that they could have totally kind of done, because this is what I expected to happen, right? I think most of us were surprised when the episode started and it went straight into intro credits. We're like, oh, okay, we've been expecting this 5-10 minute sort of side story.
Yeah.
But okay, let's see what happens. And then it kind of, he's like, when Joel tells Ellie, oh, let's go this way, I don't want you to see that. And then it shows like the shirt and the people, and it does that flashback to Bill's story.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now they're doing it here in 15 minutes. We'll see what, and then they kind of
like, no, this is the story you're watching. This is the story you're watching today. This is what you're tuning
the interesting thing that happened to me though, when that happened, was the moment I was kind of like, oh, okay, so can we kind of get back? Like, I actually, for a moment, I got a little bit like, can we get back to the main? We don't have many episodes here. Like, why are you guys spending so much time?
They're spending a lot of time on it, right? Yeah.
That's so weird. Yeah.
So when at that moment I started kind of getting agitated, irritated. That's too strong of a word, but that's when Joel and Tess went on screen. I was like, okay, so now I'm seeing a little bit more to this. It's kind of bringing me back a little bit. So it was just really nice to be able to see that backstory to Bill, because in the game we knew who Frank was. We never met Frank. Right? So it was cool to see that backstory of how, not even backstory, because they completely changed the whole thing. Yeah. Basically, like as far as we know, like Joel didn't even know who Frank was, right? When you go into that room in the game, he goes, who the hell's Frank? When he says, that's Frank.
Yeah, so, and I know you guys have mentioned it a little bit, but I know they've talked about it in the podcast, the companion piece, which is pretty nice. And that's one of the worries, that because we're all listening to it now, the companion podcast, like we don't want to repeat what they're saying, but I know like hopefully we can add to it, and it's our own perspective on it, right? But it is one of the things that they mentioned, that they have a calculus, right, of like, we want to be able to add. If we're changing something, why are we changing it, right? Like, we wanted to add to the story. And I think that kind of goes to what Dale was saying, that I think there will be a payoff, right? There will eventually, hopefully, right? If not, we'll just have a beautiful bottle episode that they win an Emmy off of this one episode or whatever, right? And it's like, damn it, they never kind of gave us much, right? Besides the fact that they found the letter, right? And Ellie gives it over to him, and she stops, and it kind of shows like the acting chops of the actors, right? Where she stops like, oh, and you could have protected. And she gives over the letter to Joel, right? It's like, and you kind of zoom into it as an audience, right? Like, Tess, and he's like, we're gonna make rules around here, right? Not like that. Better acting, better transitions than that, right? But anything else as far as that, Luis, or do we kind of touch on a couple little notes I have over here?
Yeah. So I was very much looking forward to Bill interacting with Ellie, and I'm a little bit sad that didn't happen, but honestly what they did here was great. Like I loved the whole episode. Yeah.
And and they adapted for the screen, right? They adapted for the screen, like I said, they mentioned it on the podcast as well. Whereas like for the video game, it works that Bill is kind of helping you set traps and helping you give you the gameplay mechanics. Versus in the show, like, well, we don't need that. But in the show, you can't have these little scenes, like these little moments where you just pause and I'm gonna play the piano, and then there's kind of like the intimate scene that happens as well that transitions into F you. This is what's happening. It's like, okay, so it's an interesting show to have episode I watched with my child. I definitely did one of those, like, all right, close your eyes and I'll pause it I'll mute it for a second here, kind of thing. But I hope she took from it like some good, lessons that these two people love each other, right? Like it's
beautiful
love story. I did have a couple things to point out, by the way. I think one of the things, and you did mention kind of like that already Joel is taking over for Ellie. It's like, I don't want to let you see certain things, right? And he knew that there was these bodies and these like, just kind of like mass graves in a way, right? They're not even infected, but it's like, we can't have them come back because eventually they'll get infected. So he's already kind of protecting her in that way. But then they kind of go into the store, like one of the grocery stores. And one of the cool things that you see is that they have a Mortal Kombat 2 arcade machine. If you go to the game, it's like Turning Point, or I don't know, the Turning or something, like obviously not licensed, and they don't, but it's really cool. I don't know what you guys think about that. I'll go to you, Dale, on this, but what do you think about like they actually like, no, we're gonna have Mortal Kombat 2, because that's really what probably we would have wanted in The Last of Us. It's just, we didn't want to go through the license scene and all that. But what did you think of that? I guess seeing like Mortal Kombat.
It's kind of weird because like who has an arcade machine in like their 7-Eleven still or whatever, like, yeah. It's kind of funny to have. Yeah. I thought it was cool. Like people of our age will be super ecstatic to see something like that, because we're like, oh, we know that. We've played that. We've touched that. We know that's like a real thing in the real world. So it got me excited. But I was just like back in my mental thing. I was like, that's a weird thing to have because we don't even have arcades here anymore, which is a sad thing to think about. But
yeah, and we do get a little bit of a background too. Like that's the thing. I don't know if in the game, because I keep look, you guys know me. I've put it on wax before. I'm Critical Path Carlos. So it's very likely that some of these explanations that they do on the show, they did explain it in the logbooks and stuff like that, or, the things you pick up. But I don't remember them actually explaining it in the game. I was like, no, the way things were infected, it was like it's through the globalization, right, of the world, that it got into the flour, it got into the sugar, and that's why at one point everyone ate it. That's new, right? Luis, what do you think about that, or going on the Mortal Kombat license tangent thing, or
well, I guess on the Mortal Kombat thing, it did. When I did see it, I was like, oh, cool, it's an actual real game. It's not the turning like that was in The Last of Us, which. And one, it's cool to see that, and two, I think if it were the turning or whatever in the game, I think it would have looked kind of a little too cheesy or weird, which I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm overthinking it too much, but I think it helped that it was an actual real game that most people know.
Yeah. Well, and look, it's HBO, right? And I'd like to think, so a lot of what happens on the show, I think it's, I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm already getting away from I'm trying to anyways, to get away from the like, what are the changes? What are they going to change here and there? And I think I'm getting more and more closer to like, this is an HBO prestige programming, right? It's like, it's of course it would be Mortal Kombat. Why would it be some wacky other thing? The turn in the game is fine, right? Because you're playing it fine. You understand. You get what's the new soda? The lemon lime soda? Sparky? No, it's not Sparky. Starry. It's Starry. We get plenty of Starries in video games, right? So this is a HBO prestige kind of drama, and I'm hoping, I'm trying to get closer and closer to like, I'm watching a great HBO show, not just like, what are the little details, what are this and that. And of course the internet loves that shit, right? Like they're like, did you see this, did you see this little secret, this little nugget? What do you think about that, Dale, or Luis, or we'll go to Dale. What do you think about that, man? Do you think you're still kind of looking for those little Easter eggs and those like, what did they change here or that, or what do you think? Or you're like,
I don't know, I'm just trying to enjoy the experience of what's in front of me. Like I don't try to nitpick it too much. Like I haven't rewatched any of these last episodes to go back and see anything that I might have missed before. But I don't know. I just want to be surprised. That's my big thing with it. And this last episode was super surprising to me. But I don't feel like they're gonna venture too far off on what's already established, because like at the end of the day, they still got a truck. They're still going to go through Pittsburgh or whatever, and then off to Tommy's place.
What did you think, by the way, of that when he's like, it's a shitty Chevy S10? Does that mean anything as for you as a car guy, or I don't, maybe you're not a truck guy that much?
Yeah, no, there are a bunch of S10s around. Like that was a popular model in my high school when kids would drive that around. There was the Chevy S10, but there was a variant of that called the SS. And that was like a V6, which is much more powerful than that piece of crap.
In the video game, it's kind of like when you're leaving Bill, right? Like he's like, "Oh, go off on your own or whatever." And then there's the scene, if I remember it correctly, there's like people chasing you or crashing into your truck, right? When you're trying to get it going or something, somebody's chasing
in the game.
I think, Luis, am I?
Yeah, no, that's how it works. Yeah,
yeah. And I was like the last 2-3 minutes, like they're gonna get attacked, and it's like, no, they go off into the sunset. They do the window scene, right? The window scene from the games. But I'll give you the last word, Luis, as far as kind of the recap for this, man. What do you think as far as like the ending? Did you feel like that kind of stress, like they're gonna get hit up right now as they're driving away?
No, I knew there wasn't enough time, and it kind of, I like that they're leaving it for, I'm assuming the next episode will start off with that, or at least towards the beginning of the episode.
Maybe this was a breather episode or something.
Well, and it's also the window kind of symbolizes like, the closing of the chapter of Bill and like Frank in a way too, right? Where it's like, all right, because they're in that room, right? Like they're in that room, right? Where they said, "Don't go in there. It's gonna be kind of creepy." And also, it's like I left the window open so we don't smell. So that was kind of. He still had his little humor. Actually, in the letter, before I forget, I like how when Ellie read it, she's like, "Tee hee." I was like, okay, reasonable. Still, Bill's got his jokes. Luis, I interrupted you, but any kind of I'll give you the final word on the reaction to the episode before.
Yeah, so I was talking about this with my dad yesterday and my sister earlier today, but this has turned, the last show that was like this for our household was Game of Thrones, of like, stop what you're doing, 6 p.m., this thing's going on the TV, we're all watching it together.
Yeah.
And he told me yesterday, he's like, this is my favorite show. Like I put it on par with Game of Thrones right now.
There you
so
go.
I'm like, okay, yeah. And I talked to them about like, hey, if you guys want, I'll bring out the PS5 to the living room if you guys want to check out the game. So we'll see if they both seem interested, so we might get some action
but turn on all the accessibilities, turn on the arrows telling you where to go, where to move the things.
They're gamers, man. They're gamers.
All right, I believe in them.
But I'm just excited for this, the way they left it off. That this next episode is, I'm hoping, I'm just excited for what's to come. That they're just gonna get hit quite literally, like it was a bus in the game.
I will say this. So I know you guys don't watch the previews. I don't know if you watched it this last time, but the previews were perfect, man. For this, you didn't know anything about Frank. Like they didn't say anything. It was just Bill. He's a survivalist, as we said, right? So the previews have been good. The only shows I can think of that are good or networks is AMC. If you ever look at their previews, they don't tell you anything. They just give you a general vibe of like, next episode is going to be this and that. But you don't really know too much. And I think these guys are kind of on par with that, where it's like, oh, I'm hyped for the next one. Kind of, sort of have an idea. But like I said, they didn't show Frank at all. So you didn't even know whether he was going to be alive or not, especially if you've played the video game. But we are super hyped. And HBO, we'll get to a couple news bits, I guess, as far as the plan is to leave. This thing is big, right? We'll leave a couple little news bits at the end after our reaction to the episode. One of the quick things here is, of course, it's renewed officially for season 2. I know the actress for, is her name Bella Ramsey, I believe, right? She was already saying like, keep watching and it'll be renewed, and it's confirmed. HBO confirmed it. There will be a season 2. One of the quotes that was going out there from Craig Mason, who is the showrunner, I believe, or I think he's directed as well. He did say, quote, there's going to be more than a season's worth of television as far as The Last of Us Part 2. So they're already kind of saying Last of Us Part 2. I could see it maybe going 2 seasons, depending on how this goes, maybe 2 seasons of Last of Us Part 2. And I'm down for that. Dale, what do you think, man? The fact that it's confirmed, we're getting season 2.
I think that's about right. I don't know, like where they are in the point of the story right now. I don't know how they're going to fit in the rest of the game into like, what is it? Like 9 episodes, you said?
I think
so
it might...
6 more episodes? Left Behind, right?
Oh, for this season,
and they're still left behind.
Yeah.
So I feel like they should go at least to 11 or 12.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe they go into like something else in season 2. But
yeah,
like I'm happy for that. That's cool. I could dig that. But if they have to wrap up everything in season 1 with the first game, that makes more sense. If they split the second game into 2 seasons, that makes more sense to me because the game is so much more longer and there's a lot of stuff that happens. I don't know what you would cut from that game.
I would like for them to play with, I mentioned it before, but sort of like the pacing of it. I'd be interested to see what they do as far as how they cut up the story a bit, because in part 2 you kind of go forward and back a little bit. So I wonder, I'm very, very interested in what they do with season 2 and potentially season 3, because he just said, right, he said more than a season's worth. So I figure that means at least 2 seasons.
Wink,
right?
wink.
Wink,
Hello.
wink.
Yeah.
Luis, what do you think, man, about there's a season 2 confirmed?
Yeah, I think we all kind of saw the writing was on the wall. It was pretty clear that this was going to get renewed, but it's good to see that it's official, and hopefully they keep going strong and go into what they project to be 3 seasons of show. So yeah, excited about that.
At least 3 seasons, right? They could get a little. Well, it's strange, right? I thought about like Game of Thrones has sort of had this issue, right, with the last couple seasons, the J.R.R. Martin, right? I think it's the name. George Martin. He hasn't finished the book, man. He still hasn't finished the book, and we have 2 seasons or a season and a half or whatever it was. It's like, we're gonna make it up. So I if this is such a big hit, right? Like, what
they
do
don't
they
have that problem though?
That's true. That's what was it? Neil Druckmann said there's a finality to 2, right? But if it's such a big hit that they're like, all right, we're done with part 1, we're done with part 2, let's go into part 3. I don't know, right? That's a few years from now, because there's not going to be a part 3 in that time, right? By the time we get to season 3 or 4 of this or whatever. So that's kind of that'll be interesting. But HBO does shows where it's like 2-3 seasons sometimes too as well, right? And they'll just kind of leave it alone. I know the longest, one of my favorite shows, Curb Your Enthusiasm, they literally told this man, we're ready, man, whenever you're ready. And he goes like 2 or 3 years before, like, yeah, I'll do another 10. I'll do another 12 episodes. So HBO's wacky that way. I was kind of debating where to put this one first or later, but we'll kind of end it with this one. It's a little bit of a downer, right? But this is a tweet from Neil Druckmann, and you guys probably have seen it from other people as well. But Neil Druckmann said, quote, just found out my dear friend Annie Wersching passed away. We just lost a beautiful artist and human being. My heart is shattered. Thoughts are with her loved ones. And there's also a GoFundMe to set up for her family. And of course, this is the actress that did Tess, right, in the original The Last of Us. She was 45 years old, man. And I think it's kind of, it's pretty sad. There is a GoFundMe on there to kind of help out if you guys are interested. I think I'll probably link it in the YouTube. Do you guys have kind of any thoughts? Dale, you kind of have any thoughts on this? I suppose.
I just wanted to say, like, that's very unfortunate. I feel for her family, like, thoughts and prayers and everything. It's really sad that she was taken really early in life. Like 45 is not that old. So in cancers, that it happens quickly. I hope she passed very, like, how do you say that, easy, like she didn't have a tough time. And she was able to speak with her loved ones before it happened. I didn't realize like how like influential she was. Like the fact that she's a pioneer with this whole mocap situation with like video games these days, like she was one of the first people to do this. So, I think she should be commended for something, or
and you
memorialized somehow in some of the games, or maybe the TV show. I think she deserves it.
And talking about, I'm sure in some credits or something, right? Like maybe the next episode of The Last of Us, right? The HBO show, maybe they kind of put it on there.
A dedication
but it's kind of interesting that it's a tough one. And I mean, we just came off of an episode that's sort of a downer, right? But it shows you, like, not necessarily in this sense, right? Because at least, they got to grow old and stuff, but there was kind of a sickness that like Frank had, right? It's kind of a sad thing. And Luis, you got any kind of thoughts, man? I know it's kind of like a little bit of a downer, right? But I was like, you know what? We mention it because it's sort of related, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of this story. We're talking about The Last of Us, right? So it's, I can't really add much more than what you guys are talking about. It's just, it's really sad. It's unfortunate. It's it just sucks, man. But it did seem, from what I read, that at the very least, that the family was sort of aware, they were prepared. This didn't kind of, I mean, you never really expected, but at least they were as ready, I think, as they could be.
Yeah.
With the situation, and I'm just, thoughts are with the family and friends and all that, and it sucks, dude.
Yeah, so kind of little thoughts and prayers, I suppose, and just it's a sad moment, but look. It's been another episode of Seen It. Next week, hopefully, we kind of ended a little happier note. I'm Carlos Macias, the master of, I kind of forgot, because Dalen's on the fryer this past week. Foods. He's on the fried foods. Carlos Macias, Dale Blas, the king of Mid-Bay. Thank you for joining us, sir. And Luis Mendez on the wheels of steel. You're enjoying this as a cutout, or if you kind of listen to the end of the Salient Points podcast proper, you got kind of a little extra content there. But thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time. I hope, is that still Truly? Is that Truly in that cup, Dale, or what's going on?
No, I ran out. I finished my Truly. I'm on to water now.
Okay, reasonable. You're being very, responsible drinker.
But for episode 100, we'll see how crazy it gets. Okay. It might not be Truly. I'm just letting you know.
I want to see a 12-pack of Truly on your desk. Like, here we go. You're going to be putting it like this. All right. See you guys later. See you next week.
Sure.
Bye.